In today's video, we're going to be creating this cute little notebook purse with some simple scrapbook paper and some mini composition notebooks. Hi, my name is Jenny and welcome to my channel. Thanks for stopping by. Today's video is going to be a simple and cute little project that you can do in a pinch for a quick gift. All right, so I've got this Minte 6x8 paper pad. It's called Nana's Kitchen. It's got some beautiful designs in it. And then I also have this little 3-pack of mini composition notebooks from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to take this beautiful paper and cover these notebooks and create my little notebook set. The first thing I need to do is pick out the papers that I want to cover my notebooks with. So I've gone through and selected 3 designs. And if you stick around to the end of this video, I've got a scrap busting project to make sure that we use up all of these papers. So first thing I'm going to do is just cover the front of the notebook with some glue. And I'm just going over the sort of patterned part of the notebook and leaving that binding. I'll leave that black. I think it looks pretty and it'll look nice against the pattern paper. So I'm just going to line up my paper here and cover the entire front of the notebook. And then I'll press in all of that adhesive and then I'll leave that for a minute to dry. And I'll continue putting the pattern paper over all 3 of my notebooks. And then once they're all done, we'll come back and trim away those papers. So just a little bit of liquid glue, rub in that paper and let it dry for a sec. So by the time I'm done, I'll go back to the very first one and I'll start trimming this away. So the reason why I do this is to make sure that the paper covers the area. Sometimes the notebook measurements may not be exact, like the little tape binding might be thicker on some than it is on others. So instead of measuring, I just like to do it this way. Then I make sure that I get good coverage over the entire notebook, and I'll just cut off that excess. And then I'm going to come in with a little small pair of sharp scissors and just round those corners so that the paper matches the shape of my little book. I don't want to use a corner rounder because the corner rounder may be, bigger than the shape of my book. So I'll just use my scissors for that. I'll take the scrap bits that are left over and cover the backside of the notebook and then repeat for the same process for all of the books. And then I'll come in and cut off that excess, round those corners up, and then we have 3 cute little covered notebooks, and we have some scraps left over. So I'll set these scraps aside and I'll leave those for later. And these are the cute little notebooks. Now we're going to make the little mini purse for the notebooks to go into. So I've picked another paper out of my paper pack. I'll pop this in my scoreboard and work across the 6-inch side. I want to make sure that I have enough space for my book. So I'm going to score at 3/4 of an inch and then 5 1/4. And then I'll just turn it around because I need the scores to go all the way through. And this is just a little mini scoreboard. So again, 3/4 and 5 1/4. And then I'm going to turn the paper and I'm going to score at 3.5 and 4.5. This is going to give me enough space at the bottom of my purse to fit my little notebooks. We'll do a little bit of cutting and some gluing, and then the purse will be all together. So I just make notes on my desk so that I can remember the measurements for when I voice the video over. So I'm going to burnish all of these folds, make sure I get nice sharp creases, and then we can start to see the shape of the little purse form. So I'm going over the whole paper and scoring all of the folds. So I think you should be able to see this coming through on screen where the crease marks are. That little 1-inch strip at the very bottom is going to be the base of our purse. So we need to free up these little side flaps here. So I just like to come in and cut a slight little angle. So I cut like a little tiny triangle out of the sides to release that little flap there. So I'm going to do that to all 4 scores and do the same thing. Just cut a slight little angle to release that flap. And then this way everything will fold together nicely and there won't be any bulk. When we fold this up, we were going to push in those little side flaps and tuck them in, and then the sides will get glued together to form the purse just like this. Before I do this, I noticed that my purse is just a little bit too tall and I need some straps for a handle. So I decided to go back and cut a 1/2 inch off of each end. So then I end up with the handles for my purse, and then the little notebooks fit a little bit better inside of the purse, and you'll see when it all comes together. So I've cut a 1/2 inch strip off of each side, and now I can glue this little purse together. I'll fold in those little side flaps. Actually, first I'm going to punch some little finger notches out of the sides. I'm not sure, I think it just looks pretty and it kind of, gives a little grabbing space. Now I'll glue everything together. So I'll fold in those little flaps and apply a liquid adhesive to one side of the purse. So just a little bit down the side. It doesn't need to be a whole lot. I want to make sure that it doesn't ooze out, because when we fold this together, there'll be a little bit of a gap on the bottom. It'll sort of get skinnier towards the top, and you'll see what I mean. So once we put them together, you see how that sort of gives a slight angle and it's a little bit thinner on the top. This way the books don't flop around inside. They're going to fit perfectly. So we've got that slight little angle, and I'm going to push in that adhesive, glue everything together. And then here we go. Our little tiny box is formed, and now our books should fit in here perfectly. And now we want to work on those handles. I'm going to take these two pieces and glue them together. I'm not too worried about the length. I just want to give it enough to be able to reach from one end to the other. So I just overlap at maybe about 2 inches or so and glue those pieces together. And then I'm going to use brads to secure this handle into the purse. I'm going to take a little pokey tool and poke a little hole in the bottom of the little strip, and I'll do that to both sides. And then I'm also going to take the pokey tool and poke little holes into the side of the purse. I'm not measuring. I'm not being very particular. I'm just poking holes, figuring, just kind of guessing where the middle is. And then I've got a couple of little brads here, and I'm going to look for the one that I think matches. I have this sort of minty green one, so it'll be a nice coordinating color. So I'm just testing my little hole to make sure that my brad is going to fit. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of liquid glue and just apply that to the bottom of the handle so that it's just an extra layer of security, so that the paper is glued as well as the brad kind of holding it in. So I'll pop that little brad through and stick that adhesive to the inside of the purse, press everything in, and then open up the little prongs of my brad. And then I'll do that to both sides, and then our little tiny purse will be done. You could put some tape on the inside of the brads to make sure that they don't get caught on anything. But then that's it. Our little purse is formed. Super cute. Now you could step this up, embellish the purse, cover it with pretty flowers or, a sentiment or something. And now to check the books to make sure that they fit, we'll pop them into our little purse. And look at that. Super cute. They fit in there so nicely. I think this is such a cute little thing to have on your desk. It's a cute little gift. So I've got some pretty little flowers that have gems on them, and I want to put some of those on. So I just want to dig through and find a couple that sort of match this project, and I'll glue them down into the bottom corner, and that's all I'm going to do for this little purse. I really like the way this turned out. So here we go. We have our gorgeous little purse with our little notebooks inside. And I love those little touches, the little brad on the side. It's really cute. I really enjoyed making this project. Okay, so I promised if you stuck around for this video, I would show you some scrap busting. So I created a couple of little tiny pieces of ephemera, and I just used the scraps to make these. So the first thing I created was a little mini envelope, and then I created a little mini coin envelope. And then I created a little file folder pocket with little tiny baby tags inside of it. So I used up all of my paper. I had pretty much nothing left over. And then I tucked everything inside of our little purse, and here we go. That is it. Our project is complete. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it here with me. I hope you enjoyed this cute, quick little project. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you would use these cute little notebooks for. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. I'd love to have you along my card making and paper crafting journey. Coming up on screen are some videos I think you may enjoy. Have yourself a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next one.